Starting up. There we go. And we are live. Hey, welcome to Modern Workplace Fire Away Friday on today, 8/31, 2018, last day of the month. So I want to welcome everybody to today's broadcast and a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. Again, I am your host, Michael Giannotti. I'm a healthcare and life sciences technology specialist for Microsoft. Feel free, as always, certainly join us on our blog. More about that a little bit later, but you can find me also on LinkedIn and join professionally. So if you have questions, things that you'd like to see us talk about here on Modern Workplace Fire Away Friday, fire away. Some housekeeping items, the first of which is Q&A. We want you to ask questions. I would love your questions. I'd love shout outs, etc. To do so, it's fairly straightforward. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, pointing up, of your browser, there's a little icon that has like a question mark in it and a dialog box kind of in back of that, like somebody talking. If you click that, it'll open up the Q&A panel. There you can post questions. If you want to tell me, just give me a shout out. You can say your first name and where you're coming from. If you're here, one of the states, a big city, overseas. We love hearing from people, love your shout out. So, certainly feel free to just say hi. And at any time during the broadcast, ask your questions, right? So I'll reiterate a couple of times how to do that, but upper right-hand corner, again, there's a little tiny icon. When you mouse over it, I think it does pop up and say Q&A, but click on it, it'll open on the right-hand side of the broadcast, a Q&A panel. You can ask questions, give shout outs at any time during the broadcast. So that's the first housekeeping item. Secondly, I mentioned it already, but I'm wearing my Ask Me shirt. Whoa, and we have Michael from Berlin. Love it. Love seeing you here, Michael. Thanks for joining us today. I'm hoping this year, because I do have some clients with operations, some of the pharmaceuticals in Germany. I'm hoping to make it out that way this year, but welcome. We're glad to have you. Shout out to the SharePoint Samurai. Thank you, Lee. That was from Lee, and I want to thank you for joining as well. So without any further ado, let's get started with today's show. We've got a lot to cover. And again, as we go through, any questions you have at any time, feel free to bring them up. But we're going to be covering the following today. So first off, and you'll see me glancing here from time to time because my big screen's actually there. I can read a little bit better with my old eyes. You'd see that, or you get the readers coming out. So we're going to start off with our top three. I've got three really great things to point you to this week from the last couple of weeks. So we're going to be covering those, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about Microsoft Ignite during that time. Then we're going to, for modern workplace tips, we're going to cover Teams today. Teams, it's all about Teams today. I have a demo tenant. I'm going to use the web view of Teams to kind of walk through and then demo, talk through some use cases, field any of your questions around Teams. Again, this is the time to ask. I see we got more attendees just joined. Just so you know, upper right-hand corner, little dialog box with a question mark. Click that, it'll open the Q&A panel. You can give us a shout out. Just tell me, maybe your first name, who you are, and where you're writing from or anything, or any questions at any time, because we have the Ask Me shirt on. So feel free to do so. But we're going to be covering Teams. Again, I'm going to walk through it. We're going to build a team, talk through some use cases as we build, and any questions you have around Team, that is the time to ask. Following that, it's open forum Q&A time. Anything you want to ask, this is Fire Away Friday. Questions around modern workplace. If I don't know the answer and can't answer it on the spot now, we'll get you the answer, and I'll provide that in the follow-up post with this recording of today's session. Then lastly, wrap up, we'll talk about the next session. That's in flux. I'm going to actually pull up my calendar during this, and we may be changing what I wrote because I'm getting hit with double requests trying to book me, and then I've got a bunch of travel coming up. But without further ado, let's get into the top three. So today's number one, the first one I wanted to hit on, is actually a series of posts by the same gentleman, this Bo Cameron. Bo Cameron has a post called the Plug and Play Starter Kit for Office 365. It is awesome. So he's got all this content published out, and I've seen he's a Microsoft MVP. I've seen some of the other product team members posting about, reposting and doing his stuff on Twitter around this stuff. But that's where I encountered it. I ran across all this via Twitter. And so Bo has a series of posts around customizations and things for SharePoint Online and Office 365. So the one that I first actually saw was his second post around tiles, and it's the number 2 one. Again, I'll have all the links will be posted after today's session in the follow-up, but he has, and you can always, of course, go and bing all that. You just bing, go out there and search on it. But the first one I saw was his PMP kit part 2 tiles, and it was leveraging the modern web framework, right, that they have in SharePoint for modern sites to provide tile navigation to custom applications that you want to provide. Very cool. Highly recommend checking it out. And again, it's code that you can readily add and then customize to get it. That's why they're calling it the Plug and Play Starter Kit. The first one they had was all around a portal footer. And then he's got some tips and hints and other things out there. Take a look at that. I'll have the links after today's broadcast. They're here in this. Of course, I'll post all today's slides as a PDF, and the links will be in there, but I'll also list the links out separately. So next, moving on. Modern Workplace Top 3, number 2. Thank you, Mark Cashman. Thank you, Mark Cashman. Thank you, Mark Cashman. If you don't know Mark Cashman, he's a senior product manager on SharePoint Online team. Mark is one of the nicest guys. If you get the chance to meet him, if you are going to Ignite, make sure you meet Mark. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Super smart, and he's made a couple of posts that just frankly are awesome, and they kind of go hand in hand. The first one is around, the title is huge. It was, so I'm having to look here to be able to read that. It says, have you ever asked what others do with their SharePoint-based intranet in Office 365? Dive into numerous customer stories, images, and videos. The picture I chose was Shire. The reason why I chose that is one of our local customers in healthcare and life sciences. And so Shire is actually a hospital chain, and they have links to all their stuff, and they have a 1-hour on-demand video with their managers, MVPs, and others. But there's a whole host of other ones. Another one of my customers, Thermo Fisher Scientific, they do medical devices. They're a multinational corporation. They talk about theirs. There are some great use case studies for you to dive in. You know, people like Capital Power, Cummins, Thermo Fisher, Delta Airlines, and many more. Take a look. It's actually done as a Microsoft Sway. So that's why you see the link down below. It says sway.com, and it has that kind of goofy URL. But it's a great example of what you can do with Sway to bring out data in a nice, rich format. I see we have some more people that joined. Just, I'm going to take a quick break to just quickly highlight and say, we'd love to hear from you. Give shout outs, your questions at any time. Post your questions to open up the Q&A panel in the upper right. You should see a little dialog box. It has like a little question mark. If you click that, if it's not already open, you'll see the Q&A panel. There you can, just tell me your first name. You can give a shout out, where you're joining from if you want. We had earlier shout outs from Michael in Berlin. We have Lee, who said shout out to the SharePoint Samurai. I don't know if I get in trouble these days for wearing that, but I would wear my outfit if I could. Yeah, so at any rate, we'd love to hear from you and any questions you have at any time. So the second one, like I said, it's a Sway. Great example of how you could use Sway even internally or externally with your customers, because Sways can be embedded, linked to, etc. But definitely check out those case studies around what other orgs are doing. And I love it that we have 2 healthcare and life sciences ones featured, Shire and Thermo Fisher Scientific, one a hospital chain, the other a multinational medical device company. And so some great stuff there that you can check out. The next, number 3 on our countdown, and my puppy here is, I don't know what she's doing. She's got a bone and she's chewing and wanting to bite my leg. So if I say ouch, you'll know why. But at any rate, continuing on with the Modern Workplace Top 3, number 3 is another sway that was posted out there. And this is all around how to create, the title is Create, View, Share Ideas and Information Using Beautiful WYSIWYG SharePoint News. So in this particular sway, they walk you through how you can leverage the new Microsoft News, SharePoint News, to be able to portray and get your stuff out there. They go through 20 use cases for it. 20, not 1, not 2, not 3, 20. And then they have some links for additional resources to help make very attractive, presentable news. And then finally, screenshots of what that all would look like. You can find this sway at the link. I'll provide that after the fact, again, in the recording. So be sure to check back around and get that. And also the slides will be available as PDF, so links will be in there as well. That's it for our top 3. One quick final note. If you check back at our blog, I'm going to have some additional information. I have a post up around Ignite and being able to register, whether you're there in person. And if you can't be, you're able to log in, set up a Tech Communities login, techcommunities.microsoft.com. Log in with that, and set that up if you haven't already, and log in, and you can actually register, become a registered remote attendee of the Ignite conference. I'm getting some clarification on the availability of streaming live, not just the keynote and some others. So I'm going to have some additional information around that. I was hoping to have it this morning, still waiting on that, but I'll have that probably later today and I'll post that. So take a look. That wasn't on my thing, but I wanted to quickly highlight that. So modern workplace tips. We're going to talk about Microsoft Teams today. So if you're not familiar with Teams, Teams is kind of the hub where you get work done. It's where I live my life these days at Microsoft as an employee. We're going to walk through and take a look at it and see how really it serves as that aggregate view. And just, kind of to set that up, if you think about where Teams has come from, the inception behind it, and what we're doing, in the modern world of collaboration, folks want a single pane of glass to get their work done. They want to be able to converse. They want to be able to share things. They want to be able to assign tasks if need be around that, then pull in views of the other services, applications that they need to get their job done. And when you think about that, and Teams being that front end, that user interface to that, right, where you can set up that team, readily invite people to the team and have the things secured across all that, pull in the other applications and things you need for your team to work together, whether you're a bunch of healthcare clinicians, whether you're doing R&D around pharmaceuticals, whether you're in IT and administering things for your user community, whether you're in sales, whether you're, whatever the case might be, for whatever in your organization, you might be the HR group, right? You need to pull those people together. Teams is meant to meet those needs and to be flexible enough to accommodate most things. So I have some links to some resources. Definitely check them out after the fact, especially the last one that I point out here, Microsoft Teams documentation and practical guidance. That has I'm going to use my word, a plethora of information. It has got a lot out there for you and your team. So be sure to check that out. There's tons of information that you can take advantage of. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead, come over here, and I am going to close my PowerPoint. There we go. We'll come back to PowerPoint again a little bit later. And now we're looking at Microsoft Teams. Now, this isn't a demo tenant I have. When When I'm with customers, typically I actually show them my production, but we're going to be using a demo tenant. And because I'm using Teams to broadcast, we're using a private browser session, as you can see, to a demo tenant so that I can use Teams to broadcast and then show Teams. So Teams, as I mentioned, it is that user interface to really provide that kind of one-stop shop view for everything that people need to get their work done. And so we're going to walk through. I'm going to start here on the left-hand side so you can see my mouse going up. I'm going to walk through kind of the baseline features that are within Teams, and then we're going to create a team to see how it instantiates and works in terms of the team itself. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click the first one, which is activity. And because it's a demo tenant that I just set up, there's not really anything much going on in there. You can see here I don't have a bunch of feeds and things to hit on, but you know, we can go and you can say my activity feed, and it would show, typically in my own, it shows a whole bunch of them. But from here you can go, and if you see different things where you're mentioned, where people are doing things that pertain to you, it can be chats, it can be they at you, etc. All that shows up in the activity feed across these various teams that you might be a member of, right? So it's very simple. It kind of does a roll up of all the activity pertinent to you. So in one place, you can kind of glance across and then respond as needed. The second area is chat, and it's around, this is the individual or group chat. If you think about Skype for business, right? People have been using that for years, you know, looking people up, chatting with them. I see we have some more attendees just joined. Just so you know, if you want to ask questions as we're talking, upper right-hand corner, there's a little dialog box with a question mark. Kind of looks like a, you know, the dialog box. If you click on that, if it's not already open on the right-hand side, you should see a Q&A panel, and there you can go ahead, you can type a question, you know, say your name, even just say hi and where you're from. Love to hear from you. So any questions at any time, feel free to go ahead and post those up, and we'll address those. So here we are, we're in the chat view, and I'm doing that because my big screen's over here. We're in the chat view, and with the chat view, we're able to come in, and then again, we're able to converse with different people. So I see suggested people to chat with. So for example, I could start a chat with, and it's my first time, it says they're on Skype for business. Here's Alex Wilbur, who's Brian Johnson. We got this Brian Johnson, so there we go. Whoops, I clicked somebody else. I didn't want Deborah. There's Brian. So I can go ahead and say hi to Brian. I can say, hi, Brian. How are you? And the beauty of it is they're going to get the pop-up, right, like they normally get, and we can do real-time conversations. But the other benefit of it is this. It is persistent. The chat does not go away. When I leave Teams, I don't lose the conversation or the conversation history, which can include file attachments and other things. So within this, I can do a chat session. And then like Skype, I can escalate that when I need to. I can go to voice. I can add video. I can even from here add additional people, pull them into the chat. Perhaps I'm conversing with a colleague about something we're trying to do, and I want to bring somebody else in. I can do that on the fly. I do this all the time during the day. This is where I live. Skype I don't turn on anymore. In fact, if you were able to see my regular desktop here, you'd see there's no Skype icon down there. So I live in Teams. My folks internally, they ping me on Teams. They chat with me on Teams. I had somebody start chatting to me earlier today. We escalated to voice and had a discussion and got off, but all of that's there. And then it says, if only we could do an immediate screen share like Skype. I hear you. Stay tuned. That's all I can tell you right now. Yikes, and it is pouring. Hopefully we don't lose electricity. We're having big thunderstorms here today. Yeah, no, I hear you. So, you know, certainly that's where we go and we set up a meeting or we do a thing, but there's going to be some big announcements at Ignite. That's the best I can tell you is stay tuned for Ignite. they already posted out, and they said, you know, as of that is really the cutover where we'll have reached what we call feature parity for what things most people are doing. So there's a bunch coming out internally in my own. I see a lot of stuff that's coming out that you don't see yet, because I'm in what they call canary early test. But there's a lot coming out. So yeah, I hear you with that, and certainly we want to be able to do that. But there is something like that where we can do it. So not in the individual, but we can do that in the teams, which we'll see in a bit. But here we can do all this chat. And again, we have options for some additional activities. Now, all of these can be controlled by IT, turned on or off. But here you can see I can do rich text formatting, in which case then I can do bold, you know, I can bold and highlight and do some other things. Watching user voice, and we'll stay tuned for Ignite. Yeah, absolutely. And again, check our blog later. I'm going to have more information about watching sessions, either live or on demand from Ignite, for those who can't be there. So you can get information very quickly. In fact, we're organizing some things here in the Northeast, I'll just say that. So there'll be more information coming and some invites going out. So here you can see I can do rich text formatting. Additionally, I can do attachments. Now notice I can just grab it from my OneDrive or upload from my computer. Now, what we do here in these chats in this section is, for that, the document, if we upload from our computer, it gets put into my OneDrive. And then from my OneDrive, permission to the people in the chat. It's, you know, taking advantage of best of breed services that we have in the cloud to deliver that. If you don't have OneDrive turned on, you can't do attachments in this setting for chat. So that's important to know. People talk about dependencies and other things. You need, you know, it all goes hand in hand. Teams is serving really as that front end aggregator for our best of breed services and extending into others. This is a perfect example of that. We also have the ability to do things like emojis. We can do Giphies. We have stickers that you can do. I can also do an invite, schedule a meeting right from here. If we're talking about something, hey, we got to pull some other people together, get an invite, set a meeting, I don't have to go anywhere else. I can do it right in line there and work with it. And then finally, we've got this little dots thing. This is going to show applications that have been made available that you could use. So here I could do news inserts and places that I might want to do, stock information, weather, Wikipedia search, YouTube, and find a video and drop it in, or we can grab additional ones from the store. Again, it's important to note IT can turn on or off any of those features that they want to allow or disallow. So that's chat. The next is Teams, and this is really the heart of it, where we set things up. We're going to come back to this in just a moment, but you can see here our user, our administrator, is a member of a number of teams. And in each of those teams, there's channels for discrete things that they're working on. We'll come back and talk about that, but that's really the core of where you get your work done. Next, meetings. So with meetings, it's going to pull calendar information. So here you can see here's a meeting invite. Now, the calendar information is coming from Exchange. Again, it's sitting in front of best of breed services that we provide, and then we can extend to others. So here you can see we have meetings. I can also schedule a meeting simply by click, schedule meeting. I can add a title. Notice though we have meeting, which is going to be the ones very familiar like you would have done in Skype, where we can do desktop sharing and other things like that. Or what I am doing right now, live event. Microsoft Live Events is now in preview, available to all tenants. That allows you to do a broadcast, and those broadcasts take advantage of Azure Media Streaming, where instead of a few hundred users, out of the box, 10,000 concurrent viewers can attend. I see we have some more people that dropped on. Just real quickly, if you have questions at any given time, we want to field them. We're already been answering as we go. Upper right-hand corner, there's a small icon with a question mark in the little dialog box. If you click that, if it's not already open, you'll see a Q&A panel will open up. You can post questions. You can give us shout outs. Love to hear from you. That's that. All right, so continuing on. So here you can see I can schedule a regular meeting or a live event. Now, the beauty of this, again, is it's leveraging on the back end for meeting scheduling Exchange, right? So when I schedule it here, it's going to show in my Outlook. I could also conversely go to Outlook, and if I'm on the latest bits, I'll actually get a little icon that, like we used to have for Skype, or schedule a Skype meeting. I can schedule a Teams meeting. So I can do it either way, but it's going to be reflected in both, available both ways. So I can come in here, you know, for example, say it's a meeting, and I'll say it's a project kickoff. And then I can pick which of my teams and individual channels it's for, add that to it, give the details. Is it repeating or not? Many of the basic things that we see today. It says, how do we invite an external user to a live video event? Glad you asked, Michael. So if you're in the preview, right? In preview, the live events today, which you get if you set it up in Teams, like we're doing here, I'll do it right here. We'll go say it's a live event. The invite to your event group, this is the people who are either the producers or presenters. I'm not going to add anybody else. We'll just click next. Notice then there, and it's grayed out right now. I have access internally, right? But see how it says public? So that's going to be lit up for everybody. So you're going to be able to click right here and say you want to do a public like we're doing right now and deliver that to an external audience. So it's there, it's great, it's coming, but this is just an irregular tenant, not a special tenant of any kind. So you can see I can do it internally for specific people or groups, all org if we want to do something like a CEO broadcast, and then I can do public for external. That's anonymous access. They just need the hyperlink. That's it, and that's what we're doing here today. Hope that helps. So great question. So that's meetings. So meetings, we'll go ahead and discard our changes. Meetings, again, it's interfacing with my Exchange calendar, but it's setting up the pertinent information, the one-click join for Teams. If I set up a live event, though, it's going to give me a URL, a link for people to join, like you've all joined today, and that's how we do that. So that's meetings. The next piece is really if you have the specific licensing around it, where you have not just regular voice, but you have, you know, the call plans, right? So if you have a call plan, you get this, you get calls. So at Microsoft, I don't have a physical phone. My phone is my computer. And the way I interface and call people is Microsoft Teams. Now I can come in, you can see even here in the web interface, right? We can come in, we have voicemail, we can see history, we could dial. So I could dial, for example, my wife's, let's go ahead, I'm gonna dial. Actually, no, I'm not, because you're gonna see my phone number. I was gonna dial my own cell. So that could have been fun. So at any rate, you know, you get the dial pad. It'll also, they have new phones coming out, just like they had with Skype ones that are going to be enabled for this, for voice over IP phones. So there's a few vendors around that. But here I can go in and I can do all my calling, receiving calls, setting calls, handling it. It becomes my phone center, just like you would expect. We have another area called Recent. I love this. If you've ever worked on documents with folks, wondered where those were, when, oh, shoot, where did I put that? Is it in this team, that team, is in my OneDrive, blah, blah. You go to Recent here, it's going to show you those recent sort and just look at Microsoft Team recent ones or just recent ones from OneDrive. You can also add additional cloud storage if your IT allows it. So, for example, if besides Microsoft storage, maybe you have, and who'd have thunk, right, a few years ago. If you have a Dropbox or a Box account, if you have ShareFile from Citrix, Google Drive, if your IT allows it, they could turn these on or off. We only allow SharePoint at Microsoft for additional storage things to see. But for, you know, you can come in here and you can say, hey, you know what, I want people to be able to see their Dropbox files from here. Because again, if this is where you work, if that's where those files are, we want to make it available to you, right? We want to, even if it's a competitor, we want to make that happen. Last thing, and then we're going to jump in. We do have a store for extensions, and it's pretty extensive. So there is a ton of stuff out there, and it's always being added to. Third parties are free to publish to the store. Your IT can turn on or off, narrow everything down. You'll see that especially when I open up tabs in a bit. But you know, there is a wealth of stuff that's out here and available for you and your organization to actually be able to add and do. So, you know, for example, one of them, and I was just talking with a client yesterday, they're enabling for a few folks App Studio, because what can they do with App Studio? Well, they can start grabbing some of their own applications. In fact, with theirs, they had an application that was in Amazon Web Services, and they wanted to pull that into Teams as a tab. They could do that with the App Studio fairly quickly. It becomes easy to go ahead and create tabs or bots or, you know, connectors to pull in other data, corporate data. It could be on premise. We have a gateway that you can set up for internal pieces, or it can come from other services. We want to enable you though, whether it's a competitor or not. So, you know, for example, Salesforce, we didn't build that. There's a connector, right? They want, if you're using Salesforce and your sales team is collaborating in Teams, why wouldn't you add your Salesforce CRM information right there and have it all in one-stop shop? So that's available. There's many more. There's all kinds of stuff for developers, etc. Take a look at the store. It's a great resource. And having said that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the meat of Teams, which is the teams themselves. So we're going to build one. Building a team is simple. If you think about the use cases for SharePoint from years ago, people use SharePoint team sites to store docs and do stuff. But from a pure simplified collaboration standpoint, it didn't quite match. Over the years, it's doing so many things. And I love SharePoint. SharePoint's my baby from way back. But from a simple collaboration standpoint, it got kind of, you know, in my opinion, and long in the tooth, right? People want a simplified experience. They don't want all the complexities. Now, there are use cases where you need the ability to do granular security and all kinds of workflow and building and using it like a true app and building out apps. And I have customers that have done phenomenal things. Those are still valid. But for general collaboration where I need to converse and share stuff, if nothing else but that, Teams meets the needs of 90+%. So to build a team, and you can do, they can set this up programmatically, but at a baseline, I say I want to join or create a team. Now your IT can go in and turn off self-provisioning. I just want you to understand that. They can go into the group settings and disallow, because under the hood it uses groups to set up stuff. And I'm going to talk through the components as we go, but I come in here, I'm going to click create a team, and we're going to give it a name. We'll call this Project Team X. There we go. And working on top secret projects. So before we move from this and talk about privacy, let's talk about use cases real quick. Right? And then, oh, Michael found it in my partner demo tenant. Boom, he's got the, I'm assuming you mean live events. So there you go. So when we talk about why you'd want to set these things up, think about, again, all those use cases where you need to share information. I had, for example, a group at a hospital, group of nurses who wanted to talk about stuff they were seeing on rounds and all this kind of stuff. And prior to Teams, they started actually using an external free service that IT about flipped out and security did, because it was being data mined and all that stuff, right? It was so-called private, but the mining, the data mining and all that was there. And but they wanted to be able to talk about, look, they had processes and procedures for rounds, they had training, new things that were coming up, and they wanted to provide a place where they could find the latest information and where they could talk about best practices, what they were seeing, issues they were having, and talk about and share all that to improve theirs and most importantly, patient outcome, right? That's huge. Microsoft Teams then afforded them that. They got off that because in Teams, everything is secure. We're using the best of breed compliant backends, right, with SharePoint, Exchange, and others, where we're already doing things with eDiscovery and DLP and all that great stuff. They had all that available in Teams, and so now they're able to do that. But it was simple, right? It's starting out simple. What are the things? And so we're going to show as we build some of them. So that's one idea. Also, we saw similar things with doctors. We've seen this big time with researchers who are doing things with clinical, where they're doing research around drug therapies, et cetera, and they need to collaborate with outside entities and bring those in. I'll show you how in just a second. And so being able to collaborate in a secure environment, share, converse, pull in data and all that, it's all huge, right? So we're setting up the one for, this is a project team, and they do projects, corporate project, IT projects. Another valid use, right? Project management, Project Light. And so we give it a name, we give it a description, and then we're faced with what we call the privacy, private or public. There's only two choices. You're not adding users and then going into settings and, adding them and what permissions and blah, 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 all that. That's not happening here. Again, if you need granular, it's still a SharePoint team site because you're doing much more than simple collaboration. But here, we make it simple. Private means it's yours. People can't just come in, can't be a member, they can't join. They have to be explicitly added, and they have to be added by an owner of the team. So the data is all private. It's, it's all permissioned appropriately just to the team. The other one is public. Now, public does not mean public internet. It means public within your company, open within your organization. So if you have things like, one of the use cases I've seen is where people, at Microsoft, we do frequent every year. We have certifications us technical folks have to do. And so to facilitate that, we have community collaborative training, right? Hey, here's this latest cert, and they can stand up a team, share documents, resources for studying and all that, set up meetings to go through topic areas that are going to be tested. Those get recorded, the recordings added, that we'll see how to do all that. It's a very rich, very feature-rich enabled environment, but it's public, which means if I come across it, if I need a study to join, I don't have to ask anybody. I click a join button and I'm in. It's a beautiful thing. And I can browse through the information. So we'll keep ours private in this case. The last thing is it says create a team using an existing team as a template. Now, I want to caution you, the word template may not be what you're thinking. It's a very loose term. What it's going to do is build the structure of your team based on what was done. It's not going to bring contents over. So if there's tabs, for example, to other services, the tab will be a placeholder tab that when you click it, it'll start the process of adding that, like planner and other things. So not quite a template. It's very useful to get you up and running fast, but if you have a site that you want to, simulate and reuse and then tweak after, it's a good way to get started. We're just going to go ahead, gave it a name, description, took the default private. We'll click next. Next thing to do is add users. This is where the rubber meets the road and the kind of things you're doing. So first of all, you can do distribution lists, a person's name. You can do, start looking people up. So it does AD lookup, right? So I can go ahead, we added Adele here. I could add distribution lists, security groups, and then for outside the org, if I wanted to, if we have it enabled, I could go ahead and just give an email address, and they'll get guest access, which has its own narrower set of parameters for working and collaborating. For example, on my production instance here that we're broadcasting from, I'm actually added at the top. I have a drop down, and I'm added to a couple of major pharmaceutical and some health and some hospitals as well, hospital chains, where I have been added to teams of theirs because they want to talk and collaborate. So you can do that from here. You can add those people here. It's a great way to collaborate with external parties around research, etc. So that's one of those things you want to do. So we could add Adele, we can add others. Once we get the person, we elect, are they a member or an owner? The real key difference there is an owner, especially in private, can add additional members. So we'll just make them a member. We'll click close, and that's it. We're done. We are done with the setup. What has it done behind the scenes? It's done a couple of things. Number one, it has created an Office 365 group. That means it has a web-only security group. It has security context for the members of your team, right? So we're permissioning them. It has a mailbox. We've got a mailbox that's been added for that team as well. And we have calendaring, all those things that you would think about for that, for a email-enabled security group, right? Distribution, security, all that's done right within this context. It also has set up this, conversations, just like we had in chat. We now have team conversations. So again, I can come in, maybe I want to do rich text. Notice this time it says add a subject. It's going to give it a title. So I'll just say welcome, boom, and then I can start in, welcome to our project planning team. And I could go on, do things again. It's rich text formatting. I have all the features we saw earlier with one additional. Notice, meet now. Meet now is exactly what it says, meet now. So you have a team, you click meet now, you're starting a meeting in real time and prompting all the members of the team who can join or not. You can then record, you can have that available after the fact. And it's just a great way to quickly pull people together from that team. But we have all that here. I can go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and publish that. So there you go. This is what this looks like. People can reply. We can start a running dialogue. We have likes. I can certainly go and edit. I can save this message. We also have some basic tutorial information brought front and center in the team. Michael has to leave, and you're from Berlin, so thank you for joining this late, dude. Really appreciate it. And so, you know, from there, again, we can go ahead and we can see it has how to add more people, do things with channels that we're going to do, open the FAQ. But now I've got real-time conversations with history. One other difference is this. If I come in now, so let's see if it's set it up. It's also set up under the hood. And it looks like that should be just about done. There we go. Under the hood, as part of that Office 365 group, it's set up. There's SharePoint with document library for documents here, right? So I want you to notice the interesting thing here. Here, if I do attachments, so I'll say check this out. And let's go ahead. I'm going to actually upload. Come back here. We'll upload from my computer. So it's going to do a browse to. So I'm just going to grab, there we go, I'll grab my Ask Me image. But it could be any kind of document, etc. It's grabbing that. Didn't upload. Oh, it's locked because I'm using, oh, that's interesting. I must be using that for something else. So let's go grab another image or grab something else. Let's grab a doc. I'll go to my desktop. I know I have some stuff out here. There we go. I'll grab this PDF. Around the Office 365 compliance framework. Wow. And they're locked too. They're all locked. You know why? I just realized because I'm in a separate session that doesn't have security context for this. So I can't upload. So we'll just describe it real quickly. What it does when you attach, if I was in my production instance, we'd see this. But what it does here is when you attach the document, I forgot all about that. It's going to go ahead and it will add it to your files here. So it's not someplace discrete. You attach something, it automatically gets added here. And again, all of our compliance stuff, rediscovery and all that comes into play. But it did set up SharePoint. But as a user, I don't have to care or know about SharePoint. Look, I want to work with docs. I can click new right from here. I could upload documents. if I was in my login. But I can create folders. I can create a document right from here. So let's create one. We'll call this Project Team Charter. All right. So I can go ahead, select Create. It's going to build that document right here. It opens it in line in my team from right here, and then I can start to work on it. The beauty of it is once it's here and I work on it, the other members of my team can work concurrently. We support co-authoring. So then when they come in, I'll see their name with a little bracket, and we can have multiple people in here working. We can even start a conversation and converse with each other, chat while we're all done. And then once I'm finished, I simply have to close, saves all the changes from the different individuals, and there it is right here available for us. We also have another option. Perhaps you have information in another area that you want to make readily available to these users. Maybe there's formal documentation from a records center or some other attribute. So I can come in here. Again, IT can turn on and off. All that we have internally here is SharePoint. But I could go and just grab a SharePoint link, right, to that document library, drop it in, and it'll appear as a folder right in line so my users don't have to, again, we want to keep them in one place, one-stop shop to get their work done. The only stipulation there is they have to be authorized to that repository you add. So we have conversations, we have file sharing, we also have a wiki if you want to put some quick links to resources and others, but the real magic comes when we add tabs and features to our site. So think about, again, use cases. So one of the things that, one of the use cases I talked about was these nurses, right, who were doing rounds, and they wanted to actually improve, collaborate, and converse around those. Well, there's a couple of things in a use case like that that they wanted to add. The first of which was they actually had data in their org coming out into Power BI, being visualized in Power BI. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll click here, and I'll just grab a sample here. But it's going to show, any of those here under, I could grab, let's see, what do we got under IT? We got IT, marketing, I got a range of ones. New leadership, blah, blah, I'll say R&D. They got anything? Nope. All right, well, we'll come back to IT. So the beauty of it is if you're visualizing that data and you want to have it front and center, like in their case, they had stuff that was coming out around incidents and other stuff so they could see it over time. It was pulling from some of their back end systems. It's as simple as coming in and I could say, this is my IT dash in this case. Click save. And now it's going to grab that Power BI report and put it in line. So it's going out the first time. I haven't run this one in a long time. And it's going to render it. But this is real time looking at the data, or as often as it's being refreshed, right? And it's drillable. I can go in and look at different attributes, etc. So here you can see I got this one showing network usage by location, IT operations, usage by type and region. But think about all the data that you may want to pull in readily. If you got Power BI, we can do that. So, and what did I just do? I clicked outside. Yikes. And I'm not quite sure what I did there. So at any rate, we can drop Power BI in. One of the other things that they did in their case was something called Microsoft OneNote. If you view OneNote, it's a great way to be able to take notes during meetings. It's a great way to also, add resources, etc. And so what they used OneNote for is what some people might use the wiki for. So they actually went in and they created a new notebook, and they had Brown's resources, and they used it kind of as a table of contents. Brown's resources. There we go. I'm going to go ahead, select that. We'll save, and it'll drop it in. And they used it to, as they had links to resources, to videos, documentation, etc., around the things they needed to do as part of their rounds, they dropped it into OneNote. So simple and easy. The beauty with OneNote too is you can open it in OneNote, take it on your device remotely. So if you're disconnected, you still have access to all the content there, even if you're not connected at that point. So any of the content you put in here could be there. So they used it for a range of things. They used it for some of their brainstorming. They used it, to highlight. They used pen and ink, which I love. I've got my stylus for my device here. And so they could go ahead and do, actually diagram things out, drawings around conceptual pieces and things that they were trying to highlight. Hey, you want to do this here? They could insert pictures, take the pictures of the device, drop it in where they saw a problem, highlight it with pen, and share it. Great use of OneNote. So it is, again, one of those easy to do things to add to that team, the one place where they get their work done. The other is very typically done is around Planner. And then I'm just going to quickly show you a few, talk through them, and then we'll take open forum. But also, if you have questions, go ahead and post them. Again, upper right-hand corner, the little dialog box where there's a question mark, click that and it'll open Q&A forum. Planner is for task allocation. So in their case, with the nurses, in their use case, they assigned tasks to different nurses, took the leads on certain things, right? We do this all the time in project planning. We do this in any team. I'm a member of a technical group on the sales team, and I'm on the compete team, for example, for the East region. We assign tasks, things that people on our team need to do. Every time you get people together in a team, people get assigned stuff. Planner is meant to facilitate that. You don't need the whole Microsoft project in this case. We'll take Planner, and so I can go ahead and I can call this our, I'm just going to say team tasks. Save that. It's going to create a planner. Again, permission to the people in the team. It's automatically going to be added here into our team. And so now I can come in and I can say, hey, you know what? I had that project charter doc, so complete project charter doc. I could assign that, and I can actually assign it to more than one user. You can have multiples in there. Without even opening it yet, I can set a due date. I'm going to say it's Saturday because I'm a taskmaster. Once I've done that, I can go ahead, open, and there's a whole range of stuff we can do right in here as well. So I can create what we call buckets. Maybe I have groupings of tasks. So I can create buckets and have it assigned to certain buckets. Out of the box, we get a to-do bucket, but you can certainly create others. So I have that. I can then also say, it's in progress. The start date I can say is today, give it a description. I can create a checklist of things that need to be done as a part of it and checked off. So I can say, item 1, item 2. I'm not very original and I'm misspelling, but you can see I can get those. Maybe I want those shown at a highlight on the card so people can see them. Here, I can add an attachment, again, stored in my files. But I can add an attachment here so that, if there's content documentation they need to see, I can do it right here. We can have comments that people can come in. Finally, I can come in, say, important. I can color code, select that. There we go. So now I've got this color-coded card assigned to Adele. Adele got an email notification around this. Adele can go into her planner view and see all of her tasks, and this will now show up. Or she comes into our team and it's going to show up there as well. As we create a range of tasks and we want to see where they stand, I can look at this what we call board view, where we see the cards, and I can filter on the different buckets that we're doing here. For groupings, I can pull up a chart view where I can see where we stand across all the tasks, across people, etc. And I can even look at a schedule view that's here as well to see the tasks that are scheduled. So pretty rich environment for basic project task allocation, that the kind of things that people would want to do. Additionally, there's a whole range of other things we can add for our team. I can add another I can add a tab that shows, for example, another SharePoint document library somewhere else that's already established. We can add an Excel spreadsheet right here, front and center. I can do a forms, which is for doing surveying. We already did OneNote, but I can have multiple OneNotes. If there's a PDF that I want to render and have here, I can have a PDF as a page. Planner we saw, Power BI. I can do a PowerPoint presentation as a tab. Another SharePoint site showing news articles or pages. Stream is our YouTube for the enterprise. You could go and set a channel up and say Project Team X Meetings. Because when I'm doing a meeting and I click record, it records it service side in Stream. Excuse me, yes, in Stream. Then I can tag it for our project team, and it'll auto show here, so I can have the videos whenever you miss a meeting. You can go right here. If you got an E5 license or the add-on, then I can does full text indexing and transcription, so I can go in and search. I can do facial recognition, but I can have that all right in line here. So if I miss a meeting, I can click and attend, view it remotely. We have a website one. You give a URL. Now it's important to note in the web view, if the site itself does not allow iframes being rendered as an iframe, which you can block in the code, it won't work in the web view. It will work in the application, the rich application, but not in the web view. So that's an important distinction. A lot of websites don't, a lot do. And it has to be an HTTPS, a secured site. For security reasons, right? So, but basically any links, you can drop those readily in there. We can add a wiki or a Word doc. And then you'll see there's a whole range of other third-party tabs. We've got Adobe Creative Services, Sign, Asana, Rich Project Management. There's all kinds of GitHub for, code storage and having that as your repository. But there's a range of things that are Zendesk. Designed for you to extend this to be your one-stop shop. And again, if we don't have it here, you can look and see, is there a connector that could be a bot, it could be a tab or another that's been published out there by a third party or somebody else, or it may be your own that you're publishing. And then we can add those readily to the site as well. So here you can see all kinds of stuff here. So we've got Jira, right? Things that I can do. Twitter. I actually have an HR group who monitors Twitter at an org, and they have when there's things coming, ads and replies to their tweet or mentions of their company, it's coming right in there into their conversations where they can converse about it and then respond. So automatic, think about some of the things that you can do here. So all kinds of great stuff. Again, we've got things here. There's Bing News, there's Google Analytics, Jenkins, Bitbucket, BI, Collab. Lots of open source type of connectors. And then again, you can create your own to extend all of this. So Teams really is meant to be that one-stop shop. The other thing that you should see is as you are conversing here in these channels, you're not emailing the conversations to each other. You're having the conversations here. Look at here, they're sharing and talking. There's code, right? And there's some information around this project, this R&D team, things that they're sharing and documents. Oh, there's one in the file got attached. So then it will be right in here with their other files. This becomes that one place stop, and here they have Planner and Power BI, right? So they can see data and they can assign tasks. But this is that one-stop shop where your team gets its work done and you configure it as such. There is a lot of change management and training and things that go into changing how people work, and it takes place over time. The links that I'm going to provide after the fact, take a look at those. I kind of quick highlighted them, but there is some great stuff out there to help you with that. Certainly what we would like, if you're interested, talk to your Microsoft reps. I talk to orgs all the time around Teams. I'm meeting with some pharmaceuticals pretty regularly now where they're doing use case building out, and we're having, bi-weekly meetings and then talking about where they're at, what else they'd like to do. And we're just brainstorming, and then boom, they do it and go off and then see how that works. So they're getting their feet wet with some control groups, and it's a great opportunity for you to do the same. So talk to your Microsoft sales team, get the TSPs involved, talk to your, get perhaps the local Microsoft technology centers where you can do a deep dive and how you can do some of the app dev and pulling in other pieces. There's great partners doing this as well, but talk to us. We want to help. I certainly would like to help. With that in mind, I am going to come back to our piece, and I already did the demo. There we go. We're the open forum. You can ask me anything, but there's a couple of things I want to highlight here that you should take a look at. So first of all, aka.ms/HLS blog. That's a shortcut to bring you to our blog site. Ask questions. I also have aka.ms/HLS community. Along with that blog, we have a community. You can log in and ask us anything, even if you're not a local customer, about how to use stuff with Teams and collaboration. We want to help. We want to answer your questions. Oh, I got another thank you. Have a great weekend. You as well. But we want to answer your questions. So hopefully you can get in, start playing with Teams and start using it. Also, I will have a link. There is information now. Teams is available for free. You could use this outside of work with the orgs that you work with. Your little, if you got a little league team, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. I'm involved with Haiti missions, and we've got a team for managing Haiti missions now. There's all kinds of stuff. You can have up to 300 members in your team. So pretty robust. You get the Office web apps and all that built in, and it's free. So take a look. It's a great way to get your feet wet playing around with it. But ask us questions around Teams. We'd love to hear from you. Love to know what you think, how we can help. Real quickly before I forget, because we're right at the thing, if there's any questions, I'll still take them. I can hang longer. The next session is scheduled for September 21st. It's a couple of weeks out because I'm actually traveling, and I'm going to be at Microsoft's Digital Transformation Academy. It's an internal and partner event in Vegas in 2 weeks. So, but I think now what I'm going to do is change this for 2 weeks out, which would be, if I look at my calendar, not the 7th, but the 14th. It would actually be the 14th. I may be changing that date to the 14th and broadcast from out there, just because the 21st now, I've gotten double booked by 2 different customers for that Friday, so I have to have them fight it out for my time, but it doesn't look like I'll be able. That just happened last night, so after I did schedule this. So at any rate, I'll have that final date up soon in the next few days once I hash that all out. Again, after this session, I'm going to post a PDF of all the slides with the links up to a blog post with the recording from today, because all this got recorded. We'll have that available so you can share it with colleagues, do what you want. And finally, I'll have links to everything I talked about native right within the blog post. So with that, I've got a few of you that hung on. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. I know we're running a little late. I want to be respectful of people's time, but I can hang if you do have any other questions. So I'll wait a few moments to see if any pop up in the dialogue Q&A box. Again, if you want to type in there, go to the upper right-hand corner. If you're not seeing the Q&A panel, there's a little question mark and dialogue. Click on it. It'll open Q&A, and you can post a question, a shout out, whatever you want, a goodbye, Auf Wiedersehen. That's for Michael, who left already from Berlin. But certainly you can ask away. So I'll wait just another minute or two to see if anybody posts anything, and if not, we'll sign off. And it is just, I gotta tell you, it's pouring out here. So thankfully the power did not go out, and the broadcast held. I was a little worried about that. I had last time we did a broadcast, we had really bad thunderstorms, and my guest got dropped off. He got him in his area, and his power got knocked out. So I do not see any other questions coming in. So with that, we're going to sign off. So I want to thank you for joining us today. As always, thank you very much. We appreciate your attending. We would love it if you share information, let other people know about the blog. We'd love to hear from you what you have questions about. I've done a couple of posts that were from questions now, some show me how videos. So if you have questions, want to know how to do something, post it up to the blog, ask us, or to the community. We monitor both. And just thank you for joining. Join and follow our blog, and turn your colleagues onto it. And with that, I want to thank you for today. Until next time, have a great day, have a great weekend, take care, and as always, know that you can ask me, and ciao. Bye now.